out of 210 million people living in the Himalayas, over 65% face frequent natural hazards. Landslides, floods, avalanches are becoming more frequent, more intense and more damaging to life, livelihoods and property every year. 75% of the Himalayan glaciers are on the retreat, affecting water availability for 1.3 billion people who live downstream. Millions of poor are wholly dependent on natural resources for their livelihoods. For the Asian countries, much of the development has come at the cost of the health of the ecosystems. The intrinsic interaction between ecosystem health and hazards is neglected. Degradation of natural ecosystems is one of the drivers of disaster risks. This could potentially lead to 150 million environmental refugees by the middle of this century, as predicted by the United Nations. In the 2013 flash floods in Uttarakhand, India, more than 10,000 people lost their lives, over 2 million people were affected. In 2015 a series of severe earthquakes in Nepal left a death toll of over 5,000, more than 8.1 million people were affected in the region. Losses due to this disaster were estimated to be $7 to $8 billion. Pragya team mounted a swift response after every such disaster. Using the experience gained through over 2 decades of programming in the area and by leveraging its grassroots network, the Pragya team reached out to the affected communities in the remotest of villages with essential supplies for food, shelter, hygiene and facilities for sanitation, and stayed to help them rebuild their lives. These events highlighted the critical gaps in information and communication systems in disaster management for forecasting and warning, preparedness, evacuation, as well as for relief and recovery. This has especially severe adverse consequences for remote, vulnerable communities with difficult access conditions. Through a research initiative supported by the Humanitarian Innovation Fund, Pragya developed a community-anchored risk governance model for the last-mile communities. The model builds capacity of local youth and first responders to monitor critical environmental parameters to trigger early warning for various natural hazards. The model's Go-Risk component includes the measurement processes and instruments for real-time recording and analysis of local environmental data at the grassroots. To enable community preparedness and early warning, it also includes associated data relay methods and procedures for issuing warnings. In the aftermath of a disaster, it connects all stakeholders through a relief information system to accurately identify needs of the survivors and to respond efficiently. The ARENARCOM component of the model is a decentralized multi-agency system for communicating post-disaster relief and response information including details on the status and needs of the disaster-affected population, disaggregated by sector, age, gender and vulnerable groups. The innovation recognizes the critical need for anchoring protection and relief at the grassroots level of communities and local administrations, in a culture of people-state collaboration following the principles of risk governance. In 2015, the model was selected as one of the top 20 innovations at the Risk Awards by UNISDR and Munich Re Foundation during the 3rd UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction in Sendai, Japan. The lead theorist, Ms. Gargi Banerjee, the founder of Pragya, was invited to showcase the innovation at the Global Consultation for the World Humanitarian Summit held in Geneva, Switzerland in October 2015. She was also part of the World Humanitarian Summit held in Istanbul, Turkey in 2016 where she advocated for the disaster risk governance model. Pragya is currently piloting the model across 800 disaster-prone villages in the Indian Himalayas. Capacity building for remote, isolated communities and the community-state collaborative processes are contributing to improving preparedness, which will significantly reduce deaths and damage resulting from disaster events. These efforts are complemented by Pragya initiative to promote climate-smart agriculture in the region. Pragya facilitates local youth-anchored extension services, technology demonstrations and farm-level research for building local resilience. Ms. Banerjee led Pragya to co-host a thematic side event with UNEP and ESPA with support from Whitley Fund for Nature and IUCN at the Asian Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction, held in New Delhi, India. This event on ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction connected with experts from over 17 Asian countries to share best practices and advocate for uptake of ecosystem-based approaches. At the conclusion of the Asian Ministerial Conference, recommendations from this session were adopted under Priority 4 of the Asian Regional Plan for Implementation of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. The Asian Regional Plan cited mainstreaming ecosystem-based approaches through transboundary cooperation to build resilience as one of its key priorities. Healthy ecosystems provide multiple development benefits, including livelihoods, health, food and water security, all of which can strengthen resilience to disasters. Well-managed ecosystems function as natural or green infrastructure that can directly reduce a community's exposure and vulnerability to a range of hazards, such as flooding, storm surge, drought and landslides among others. Healthy ecosystems also increase people's capacities to better cope with and recover from disaster events. Pragya, under Ms. Banerjee's leadership, continues to strive towards building a resilient ecosystem and a resilient community.